Hello and welcome to Digital Future Young. Today we're going to talk about the Metaverse. My name is Lamila Simšić-Pašić and I will be moderating this session. To understand more about today's topic, Metaverse, we will host 10 presentations followed by the discussion. So I have a great pleasure to introduce our guests of today. We have the Francisco Silva from the ex-Futura, Livia, Lindenbauer, and Urszula Zwierzynska from Technical University of Vienna, Haotian Zhang from the University of Hong Kong, Jennifer Durand from Ola and Ricardo Palma University, Souktik Bhattacherjee from Jadavapur University, Elizabeth Frias from the Gamer Architect, Mario Mu from the WEW Collective, Stepan, Kukharskiy, and Alina Chereyskaya, sorry for my pronunciation of your name, from SA Lab, Cininta Mutiara and her team from Universitat Atmajaya, Jakarta, and Institute Sen Indonesia, Jakarta, and Ertuğ, Erpek, and İpek Düzova from the Ertuğ and AADRL. So I would like to welcome you and thank you for participating in this talk. As today's session, we start with a short introduction, and then we have our presenters, our speakers, to speak about their projects in 5 to 7 minutes. And after that, I very welcome all of you to join the discussion part. And for the audience on YouTube, you are welcome to post your questions, and we will try to address them after the presentation. So also one additional remark, if you not join our community, please contact us via our webpage or via Discord, and we are always looking for the new members, so you are all welcome. It is also great pleasure to have the Neil Leach today with us to address the audience. So Neil, please, the screen is yours. Welcome to your platform.
Thank you, Lina. I just want to say how excited I am about today's session. If there are two hot topics around the moment, it's the metaverse and it's AI, particularly Midjourney. We have a Midjourney session coming up soon, and I'm just excited to see. We are all about the future, and you guys are the future. I know how talented some of you are already, and I'm looking forward to seeing the others. So welcome, and thank you to the team for setting this up. Thank you, Lamila. It's great to see you introducing a session. So thank you and good luck. Let's go for it.
Thank you. So I will just start with introducing our first speaker, which is Jennifer Durand. Jennifer, welcome. Jennifer is an architect who graduated from Ricardo Palma University and did the Master in Architecture Management and Design from University in Madrid, Spain. She's currently the main architect in her own architecture studio called OVA. She's also co-founder and virtual architecture research studio Ola Online Lab of Architecture, and she teaches as a full professor at the Ricardo Palma University. She has won several awards, the last being the selection of her project Moray, the Lost Territory at the Ibero-American Architecture and Urbanism Biennale 2022. So Jennifer will present her work titled Fluidity in the Metaverse. So Jennifer, happy to have you. Screen is yours.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Share my screen. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
We can see your screen.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you so much, DigitalFUTURES, for having me here today. I am Jennifer Durand, and a little of a background about myself is that I am a Peruvian architect. I work with digital architecture and physical architecture. And today I'm here to talk about the metaverse. I have been working with immersive environments since 2020. And now the big word for that, before it was immersive environments, today is metaverse environments. And the topic of my talk is metaverse environments, like fluidity in the metaverse. So there are varieties of metaverse platforms. Some of these platforms are like based on voxels, and you can see that on the left. But there are some platforms that are for complex geometries, and I will talk about these type of platforms. In the metaverse, something that is a key topic is the geometry size. You can see here a comparison in some metaverse that I work with the different types of metaverse upload size. You can see that it ranges from 15 megabytes in Decentraland to more than 40 gigabytes, and this for me when I work with Unreal Engine. So here is how I work. This is my workflow. I call it curiosity-driven design because for me, every project starts with a question. And the conforming architecture is trying to answer this question. Sorry for the background noise because it's like very loud. And well, first is a question, then I have a conceptual phase that is mostly with hand sketches, then a 3D modeling phase where I use mostly Maya and Rhino, and then I have an output file and I upload it into a metaverse platform. So now we will talk about the projects and how the Fluidity projects are uploaded to the metaverse. The first one is called the Bloom Towers. The Bloom Towers was an individual project that I developed in 2021. The question is here, is it possible to create a nature-based immersive project of twin towers? The project has a very simple brief. It was twin towers, and I have as a concept the geranium flower and nature, and I start creating lines and creating sketches for developing this beautiful project. And I developed interior and outdoor spaces. Then the project was uploaded into 3 different metaverses, well, 2 metaverses, but 3 times. So the first one is in Sansar, the second one is in Sansar 2, and the third one is in the Monoverse. What is key in the metaverse is that you can change the textures and change the whole atmosphere of a project. So you can see that in the first one is a purple dream, but in the day. In the second one, my towers were, I had the honor to be chosen to host the Futurely Christmas Party 2021. So Arekesh entered to retexturize my towers, and that is something very interesting in the metaverse that is collaborative. So you can change the whole textures, and as you can see, you can change the whole mood. And the third one is in the Monoverse using Unity. The thing with the metaverse is that we can have different types of experiences. And in here, it was a key point to have interactive objects and changes in gravity. So you can see that you can have the headsets and the virtual reality experience with headsets on. You can see it on the left. And how, if you don't have the headset, you can enter with the PC. Here is the party, the Futurely Christmas Party. Because what is a metaverse without people? So this is how it looks when there are people inside dancing and having a really nice time inside the towers. The second project that I will talk about is called the Chronicle Chapter 2. In this one, the question was, is it possible to create a metaverse with social spaces based on an NFT? This project was based on an NFT that my client had, that he created. The NFT was called Chapter 2, that's why the project is called that way. And the concept here was Saturn lines. The spaces in here were a spatial architecture with interior and exterior spaces. And as you can see, all my projects has a very complex geometry, and the tricky thing to upload these things to the metaverse, because in here I was working with Unity. With Unity inside the Monoverse, I have 2 types of experience. Well, the PC experience in the outdoors, like you can see the project is huge because it has a whole atmosphere. So I create a small medium of transport that was a small boat. And you can see the little girl, my avatar, going to the boat. And in the interiors, I have an NFT gallery, social spaces, and a lot of spaces just for the community of the artist, because the whole project was for an artist and his community. This project has a token key, so not everyone can enter to the project, just the person that has the token key, because that's how the metaverse can have like this type of virtual keys. And this project is for his community. You can see the materiality and the interactive user experience. The other project that I can talk about is called Metaverse 101. This was an educational project that I created as a base question I had. Is it possible to create a virtual classroom in the metaverse? So Metaverse 101 starts from the idea that I was teaching at the university, and I have my students, but we were in remote. So we didn't see each other. The most close that I can go with seeing with my students was having a virtual space and having them there and sharing the screen and having a classroom and have a class there. So for this, I use Spatial because I needed something very key to have the interoperability between Metaverse devices, not only PC and the headsets, but also the smartphones, because some of the students were not in my same place, so they were in different parts of Peru, and they needed to enter through the smartphone. And then here you can see how the students had their classes. It was before Spatial got legs, so you can see just like the random avatars there without legs. Now the Spatial has an upgrade, so it has legs now. This is a group project. It's called Under the Seaverse. This is a group project made with Elizabeth Frías, who's also here, Joda Skandarnia, and Omar Salama during the Digital Futures workshop, Architecture for the Metaverse, taught by the CHGO in these Digital Futures. In here we have a question that is it possible to create an NFT gallery as an underwater experience? And well, in here we have a brief that it has to create an NFT gallery. And the concept was to create an underwater architecture. So we have to create spaces with underwater and above water models, and how to translate this into Unreal Engine, because the whole project is in Unreal Engine. So the key point for this, and the very difficult part, was how to create an underwater atmosphere in Unreal Engine, and how to create this experience in Unreal. So we have very key points for the creation of the atmosphere, and it uses immersive sounds. Right now you cannot hear the sounds, but it sounds like bubbling water, like bubbles. And you can see in the videos how the avatar has all these models that they can go as it is a gallery. And yeah, you can see here all the videos. Another project I will talk about is called Elemental. Elemental has as a base question, is it possible to recreate a well-being experience using natural and architectural elements as an interface in the metaverse? Elemental was co-created with Daniel Escobar this year for the final MetaFluid studio taught by Mariana Cabugueira. In Elemental, our base question and our concept was to use natural elements, the basic natural elements like fire, air, water, and earth. So we have here how the spaces and how we start creating a metaverse well-being park, because we start to think how we can translate these natural elements inside the metaverse, how we have this mixture. And you can see in the pictures the final outcome of the project. We have 4 main buildings, and each of the buildings made for both fire, air, earth, and water. And here you can see the video. The key for this project is the sound. Right now you cannot hear the sound, but I will paste the link of the video so you can have the full video, because the video is huge, and you can see the project. The real key point to the project is not only the architecture, but in the metaverse we need to have the sound as an immersive key point too. And the last project that I will talk about is called MetaOasis. MetaOasis is an individual project. It's the last one that I was working. And in MetaOasis, what I was aiming for was to create something that is like a pod inside a desert as an oasis experience. But all of this has the conflict of having like the complexity of using Maya and Rhino for creating this type of architecture and have to upload it into the metaverse. This one is using the MetaHuman plugin in Unreal Engine. That's why you see the little person running. And well, that's the last project. In this one, the question was, can an oasis space be created inside a desert, the center of the desert in the metaverse? And yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for having me here at DigitalFUTURES. Here are my social media in case you want to follow.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for your presentation. We will come back to you during the discussion time. Please stay with us. I would like to present our next speaker, Francisco Silva. He studied at the Porto School of Architecture. Afterward, he worked for Jean-Noël and Su Fujimoto on numerous international projects. He is one of the founders of the Expo-Cultura, a studio focused on experimental methodology and the research of new ways of thinking about the architecture. So Francisco will present today his work titled World Habitat. So Francisco, are you ready?
Yes.
Screen is all yours.
Can you see my screen now?
We can see your screen. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you one more time. I'm Francisco Silva. I'm from Porto, Portugal. I'm an architect. I've been working in Paris. I've worked with Su Fujimoto and Jean-Noël before founding Exfigura with Barbara Stallone. We are a young studio that focus on the areas between art, architecture, design, fashion, and many other fields. And World Habitat is a conceptual project that explores life within the virtual world. And today I'll be presenting the project through the scope of what can be meaningful for people when everything seems possible. So the digital is obviously a very powerful tool, and it's becoming more and more intertwined with physical reality. And if we consider a fully immersive life within a virtual environment, the perception of the world becomes malleable. People will be able to do anything that they want with their lives and with what they see around them. More than that, their entire lives can be edited. People will be able to experience situations that they've always wished for. And it will be like living in a dream, but all the time. The problem is that this is an extremely individual experience. So it's something that's not meant or not initially intended to be a collective experience. So the first question is, what happens to people, to the individual user? When you can live in fabricated realities with total control and no accountability for your actions, what happens next? Will people become indifferent to the virtual world? Will they lose any notion of responsibility? Are they going to become bored and without any interest to keep searching for new things and exploring new situations? So this is the focus, the main focus of this presentation. So first of all, the key factor to holding a system together is always the interaction between its different parts. It's the exchange between the users of ideas, of information. And this is obviously very important because the groups always maintain a certain level of coherence. They automatically establish social norms and codes of conduct. And anything that is radically different from the norm will be left out. So people will always have the tendency to behave properly, if I can put it this way. So the connection between people is what really drives each one of the individuals forward. Is what gives them the motivation to do new things, to try new experiences. And this is why for a system and for a digital world, it's very important to keep the people in contact. So instead of having each person, allowing each person a complete freedom to do what they want in their own space, the metaverse in this case should always motivate a continuous connection between everyone, so that everyone can always influence everyone else around and contaminate, if I can say something like this, and really push everyone forward constantly. So what can be meaningful when anything is possible? If we talk about a virtual space where anything can be done and where everything can be possible, what really makes the difference is the creative aspect of each one of the users. So self-expression and identity can become the most fundamental part of any digital system. The ability to do what they want, but within a certain personal value, so that other people can recognize something that is meaningful. So this is the question that I wanted to present and leave you all with. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Hope we will come back to some of your questions. There have been many during your presentation. So please stay during the discussion time so we can maybe ask the others what they are thinking about the question you just presented. Let me just present the next speaker. We have the duo Livia Lindenbauer and Urszula Zwierzynska. As a young architects and designers, they question the fact that the term space does not only refer to purely built-in architecture. For two of them, it has always been clear that everything, be it communication, information, or emotions, among other things, can be transferred into the space. So with their project Exilium, Duo has modeled what this abstract transmission might look like, and we will look at their metaphorical bridge from one world to another. So they're gonna present the project titled Exilium XR, a transition experience between network environments. So Livia?
Yes, hello.
Okay, hi Livia, and hello Urszula.
Hi, hello.
Please welcome.
Thank
The screen is all yours.
So hi everyone, and thank you for the opportunity for us to be here today on this panel. So we're presenting Exilium, a transition concept between network environments. It's a project that we've developed under Architectural Association School of Architecture in London this summer. I'm Ula, but let me first introduce my partner in crime, Livia, who's currently doing her master's in architecture in Paris. This project wouldn't be possible without her great visionary and forward-thinking mind. She represents what future is, both with her fashion style and approach to design, which greatly inspired Exilium aesthetics.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Livia, and I'd like to introduce you to Ula. She's the most creative person I know. She's very sensitive, has an incredible technical background, and she is also extremely determined. So soon after we met, we realized that we share a form of creative thinking and creating. So now knowing us, I'd like to introduce you to our project, Exilium. So Exilium is a personal experience. Therefore, I'd like to start this presentation in our own spheres. So to better understand what this is about, follow my brief instructions, please. So we start to imagine, if you want, you can close your eyes, that we are at a pool, maybe at a cliff, at the sea, and then we jump. And we're well aware of what to expect. Like the moment feels particularly intense and slowed down. So we still feel the hot, rough ground under the feet, and at the same moment, we feel the fresh water hitting our faces, the pressure in our ears, and the weightlessness of the water, whilst we neither touch the one nor the other. So some such transitions make us sharp and wide. They create new things out of the existing, and they make us curious and also attentive. So the future of architecture and living together into translated into digital space.
The name Cilium derives from mycelium, the root-like structure that grows exponentially, forming a network. And Cilium for us represents a broad concept of how digital architects or metaverse designers could approach all sorts of transitions between multiple mediums and network environments like metaverses. There is a debate whether the name metaverse should actually represent one global network like the World Wide Web. But for now, there are a couple of different metaverses delivered by various companies, and they are not compatible yet. So the question is, how should a transition between these metaverses happen? Is it just a click, a fraction of a second, or should it be a journey? What happens when a user logs out? Is his presence gone? Is there nothing that remains of him on the network? So we called it the journey of in-between spaces. And here is the video explaining the concept, capturing a moment of immersion from real life to the virtual world. You can think of it as a loading time before you are connected to your server or environment. Another use for this type of transition is to switch between metaverses. And usually it is log out and login process, or you have to click on close and leave the space before you can connect to a new one, which is a very detached process. And it's disturbing. It's going in contrast to how our brain works, which usually flows dynamically between thoughts in an intuitive way. But different thoughts types have distinct electrophysiological signatures, and there is nothing worse than something distracting us from what we are focused on. So we rather want a flawless transition that takes us from one medium to another. And in this transition space where Livia currently is, there is room for connecting two opposite ends to merge them in that space and make the journey more fluent from human perspective.
Yes, our research is based on neuroscience for architecture and exquisite corp games that we created especially for this experience and tried them out. We played them with a lot of people. And these interactions formed a specific feeling of togetherness, a community, or a network, if you so will. Furthermore, we extracted the sound we created together and then manipulated the audio to create something new out of the existing again. So this can be seen as a translation between media of movement and of sound. On the other hand, this can be seen as a metaphor of how the networks operates. So if you're interested, you can watch how the behind the scenes here. You can also watch the games that we played on Instagram, on the YouTube. So thank you for your attention for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I really much like the concept, how you support each other and how you present each other. So it seems that the connection is there. So we will come back to you again. And I just want to go to present our next presenter, speaker of today, Haotian Zhang. Haotian Zhang is an architectural designer and digital artist. He received his architectural education from Cooper Union and Tsinghua University, and currently teaching studios in digital representation at the University of Hong Kong. His teaching and research revolve around surrealistic digital representation with the focus on the medium of the point cloud. His works have been exhibited internationally, and today he will present us the research under the title Metaverse as a Fractal Space. Haotian?
Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone.
To have you, screen is yours.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Haotian Zhang. It's actually my second time participating in the conversations held by the Digital Futures, which is almost a full year from the previous one. So I'm very happy today to share the current progress. This time, with some new, fresh works, hopefully, to instigate the discussion. So to quickly introduce myself and also the members in the team, I am an architectural designer and a digital artist in Hong Kong. I'm teaching at the University of Hong Kong, and my colleague at Hong Kong U, Ms. Tian Li, is also part of the team. Tian and I also create works independently or collaboratively under the name of Frank and Lisa, which is the name of our studio. And the other member of our small team is our friend, Qian Guo. She's a brain-computer interface designer and a digital artist based in Beijing. And the project we are sharing today is an ongoing research supported by the Design Trust. And with this title, Metaverse as a Fractal Space, I want to share our current progress and the thinking behind it. Well, first, I want to say that we are fairly new to the discussion of Metaverse, and the project I'm showing today is more of an aesthetic provocation than a feasible technical solution, as our current work remains animations and is not supported by platforms that make interactive environments like game engines. While on the other hand, we argue that our imagination should not be limited by prevailing modeling software, and the Metaverse may not be three-dimensional even. It could be fundamentally different from the real world or anything we model digitally. So the word I use here is in the title is fractal, but perhaps the more accurate mathematic definition should be non-Euclidean, which is to say the space is not flat or even. Our work envisions objects, architecture, and cities in non-Euclidean spaces. Well, first, I want to look back and quickly go through a series of works that go beyond the limit of a 2D frame or a 3D space, starting from the most classical case, Las Meninas. In this painting, the canvas is doubled, both the actual canvas containing the pigments, but also the frame in the picture that is on the left-hand side. Therefore, it is in fact a portal that connects the room in the painting to the space of the gallery. And metaphorically, a painting is a portal that reaches to other worlds, which is heightened in this work as the paintings are not foreshortened, even if they are oriented towards all kinds of directions. The spaces bridged by the paintings look as if they are right outside a window. Fast forward to around 2010, where the Mandelbrot became popular, partly because it can be efficiently visualized by a rendering method called ray marching, and more importantly, in real time. And later it became a popular image in the world of entertainment as well. For example, in the movie Annihilation, it is used to represent a non-humanoid alien. While mathematicians, engineers, and developers are looking for technological solutions of the digital non-Euclidean space, we also set out our journey of searching for its aesthetic expression. To start, we limit the subject to found objects or an existing space. And we don't mind if it is ordinary because we try to focus on the folding of the space itself. The outcome is a remix of hyperdimensional space and everyday environments or objects, shifting between the familiar and the spectacular. In this series of works, we moved an apple through different spaces to see how it is distorted by the invisible field. And in this clip particularly, we try to map the apple onto a fractal geometry and Mandelbrot set. As the camera dives deeper, smaller apples come closer and more details are revealed. Meanwhile, the apple may well be replaced by a room, for example. In the following film, we scanned a Buddhist altar in Hong Kong and placed the cubic space on the facets of a four-dimensional cube. And what you see here is that hypercube revolving, points emerging or disappearing into the fourth dimension. And here I'd like to highlight that the digital format resulting from 3D scanning, which is point cloud, is particularly a suitable type of digital model because of its fluidity. Point clouds do not have complex topological structure. They're discrete points just like particles in the water, showing the invisible flow. They mark the transformation of space. The quote-unquote design in this project happens to the invisible infrastructure, the evolution, involution, and the revolution of space itself. The following film, titled Forking Room, is where we are at right now. It is a journey from a quarantine room through going through screens, entering other rooms or the same room recursively. As a personal reflection over the pandemic, the screen is almost equivalent to a window, and the bedroom may also be the facade of a building. people were experiencing a hyperdimensional world in the realest way possible. And we are trying to portray this in the digital space. A flat 2D frame may become a space with depth in the next moment. Rooms are nested inside each other, joined through screens, which challenges the concept of in and out as the whole film dives in and in and in. We're also searching for architects' contribution to the metaverse besides sculpting fantastical forms, which may just lie in the design of the spatial structure of such non-Euclidean rooms. In fact, I'm quite nervous right now because I don't know how choppy the film is. So for the next film, I took the suggestion and replaced the video with a series of frames. Hopefully that can make it easier for us to see everything. So this next chapter of the film, which is still in progress, hints at the digital city that we envision. As reality is encapsulated in the static hierarchy of scale, sealing the world in rooms, buildings, blocks, and cities, we envision that a room can be blown up to the size of the city, or that a city is inside a room. Such relationships between big and small, in and out, are constantly in flux. And when concepts of big and small are not applicable, how would people occupy the space, and how such a spatial structure would signal a different relationship between the private and the public sphere? Can the size of the space finally cease to be a measure of properties? And can we each own an infinity of space? So these are the questions that we are hoping to address through this project. And thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking us to this journey. It was really nice, and I'm sorry because we have only such a limited time, but hope you during the discussion time you will show us more and tell us more about your projects. Really, thank you. So let me present Souktik Bhattacherjee, if I'm really pronouncing. I know that I did some mistakes in pronunciation of your name. So Souktik is a computational designer and is contributing to space architecture over the past few years with a specialization in the simulation of deployable space habitats. He was a part of a space station design workshop in 2021 in University of Stuttgart and published the research papers on the self-sustainable lunar habitat at SSEI 2022 Spain. He was declared the winner of the Martian Challenge 2021 and was an invited speaker at the Global Conference on Gravitation, Astrophysics and Cosmology, Valencia, Spain. Souktik will present his project titled Application of Metaverse in Space Architecture. So Souktik, welcome, happy to have you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction.
Thank you for coming.
So before I start the presentation, I would like to ask that how does it feel to work on the moon, or how does it really feel to see sun from the space? I believe that the experience is quite different, and it is something that we need to show the whole world and the young generation that they are building. So my presentation is on the metaverse in space architecture, and we will dive deep into how metaverse is getting applied in the field of space architecture. So myself, Souktik Bhattacherjee, and I love about space technology, computational design, artificial intelligence, and stuff like that. So, so now I have done bachelor's in architecture, and I am currently doing master's in architecture in urban design specialization from Jadavpur University. And okay, just And the important projects that I did are Amore, which is a self-sustainable lunar habitat. Also, it got published at ICS conferences. And another project which I submitted as thesis was the Indian Space Research Institute. And I also did dissertation research on origami space habitats, which is a deployable space habitats and how does it perform, all about that. And moving on to my awards, I won Martian Challenge Award in 2021 with the team of Akash Space Studio, and I also got honorable mention as OSC Art Contest, which is regarding some space. And I have experience regarding the space architecture, computational design, architectural journalism, and I did some architectural stuff too. Now moving on to that, why do we need actually the metaverse in space architecture? Now let me define space architecture. Space architecture is the theory and practice of designing and building inhabited environments in outer space. So that literally means building on moon or building a habitat on moon. Moving on to that why do we need is the research. Now you see, if you see the like the technical world about the infrastructural development of space institutes and space research, there is a lack, and that is too much expensive, like the astronaut training facilities and also the observatories are quite expensive. And those things results in a gap of technology transfer between countries from level to level, and there is a kind of gap in the education as well. Now coming on to the education. Now in the education point of view, the immersive experience of space is really lacking, where metaverse can build a really big role to spread awareness and really take a person into that space which they are working on. And next, the economical part, like already said, that the expensive infrastructure and the simulation facilities and the economies can also produce the NFT lands for space, and the space cryptocurrencies can be the new future, and some new kind of portal can be opened through it. And the next thing is the entertainment and space is lots, like it opens to like space citizenship. We can get some government established in metaverse, and then we can have the games for teens. We already have some, I recently saw some games on metaverse channels, like exploring ISS and stuff like that. Now what we can do, like what is our role in actually implementing metaverse in space architecture? So the main part is so it can be divided into 4 parts, like the software part, hardware part, and economics and education. So from the software point of view, the core theme is the space, and we can introduce NFTs and space cryptos and other business ventures come like advertisement and stuff like that. And moving on to the hardware part, now hardware plays a very big role in enhancing our experience. Now when we see something in metaverse like a 0G, so we must experience that zero gravitational force in us, and that is a different experience, and it will really contribute into training astronauts and other professionals who are into space, and also the analog environments too, which we will discuss in a bit later. And in the economics point of view, it will build a ecosystem for the collaboration and investments for involvement of institutions at all levels. Suppose from hardware, some companies came some softwares, and it will create some collaborators. And from the investment point of view, the venture capitalists and the institutions at high levels can contribute to the economical point of view too. And the education and so it is actually important to know that what metaverse is, and about the space architecture and the space industry as a whole. So from education point of view, it is also a very challenging topic, and also we need to develop lots of educational contents for the upcoming generations. Now how do we implement what is the first step in implementation of the space architecture? Like what is the first step? So I introduced to you the idea of Metaverse Microgravity Analog Research Station. So it's called MMARS. Now what is a analog research station? Analog station is a space adapted or designed to support the analog mission and add more simulation and testing capabilities, where analog mission is a research method focused on investigation one or several aspects of crewed space missions and using early real life situations to analog of the work world scenario. So basically here the before we go to actual space mission, we are training here and getting the whole essence of the mission, and we are performing the required researches, mostly of the space psychology, because physiology is mostly done in space environment, and the other like a workload and other stuff. Now, why do we need that? Now, when we are doing this research station inside Metaverse, we can see that there is a cheap and easy access to analog facilities because we need some hardwares, and then the software is available and we can easily develop that. And then we are enhancing the space research, and we are also developing the space industry as well along with that. Now from the how we can do it. Now, as I told already you that the hardware plays a main role in driving the experience. Now how the experience comes, like we can do something, a VR device which can be worn underwear, and the researchers can do stuffs, or the astronauts can really train underwater, like how it is done in most of the space centers at NASA. And also we can develop some 360 rotatable pods. And from the software point of view, we already have some good environments of space, and we can develop the architectural of that, the research station, how it will look, what it will look, and the gravitational support as well. And research, the most important part is research. So on applications, we will get to know more about that, how the research will go. Now, what is the future of this project? Now, the first future is, since we are developing the microgravity, it will be very easy for us to do for reduced gravity. Now, microgravity is something we feel at low Earth orbit, which is at ISS, no gravity at all. Now, when we are going to Mars or Moon, on Moon it becomes 1/9 of the gravitational we have now, and on Mars it becomes 1/3 of the gravity. So the whole experience changes, and it will definitely contribute to the astronaut training, as I told you, and also the space industry for under and developing countries. Now that is also a huge chapter, all it is, but those are the countries which are now coming up in the new space race, where cheap space industry is going to come up with cheaper payloads. Now let's have a look into that, how these things will go, and through a series of photographs, that how this will go. So so the astronauts are ready inside the space stations, and they are ready for the work, and you can see how beautiful the metaversal space is. And now the astronauts, they are developing the advanced plantation habitation, as we have something on ISS already, but this is on a bigger scale, since we have the better experience and we need to move forward. So that is the thing they are testing, and through this metaverse, inside the metaverse. Now the another aspect is that after all their work, they are just ready with their equipped with all the research is done, and now it's time that they come out of the metaverse. So the last scene is something like that, how beautiful the sunrise will look from space or from other space craft. And that is a whole experience as it is. And with the space industry moving towards more commercialization of space industry, and also the space tourism upcoming thing, so these are all will collaborate and like merge, and it will create a whole new level of experience, where like sitting in your couch, you can just look into that, how beautiful the space is, and take enjoy. Now like the doctors are ready from outside the space pods to take out the astronauts, and like I named it for a Mars pods, and in the next they are ready to join into the deep space journey to Mars. And that's how developing the space astronauts for the future through AIM Mars. And thank you. If any questions, let me know in the discussions. Thank you.
Souktik, thank you for your presentation. I'm quite sure that we will have many questions. How is that on the Mars? So, so you are the right person to ask. Now we know. Thank you for your presentation. As the next speaker, we have Elizabeth Frias. Elizabeth is an architect who graduated from the Universitat Iberoamericana in 2018 with an online specialization in game design for the California Institute of Art and the postgraduate degree in architecture for exhibitions from Academy, Bologna 2022. She has certification and participation in different high-level formations, where she has been trained on architecture in the Metaverse with the ZH Code theme, in addition to conducting different workshops on the architecture of the Metaverse in Mexico. She, in 2020, she founded the Gamer Architect, the platform for disseminating video games architecture, and in 2022, Studio Neox, an architecture studio focused on gamer design, entertainment, and the Metaverse. Elizabeth will show us today new approaches and the method for the gaming environment using AI. So, Elizabeth, the floor is yours. Would you like to share the screen? Super.
Yeah.
Now we can hear you. Super. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And first of all, thank you so much also for the opportunity to be here. And well, my investigation will talk about new approaches and methods for the gaming environment using AI. So I did this to talk about a little bit about me. So quickly, my education, I did a bachelor in architecture in the University of Iberoamericana, and I have a specialization in game design by color. And my professional experience, in 2020, I founded the Gamer Architect, which is a community created for architects by gamers and by gamers for architects. And it's a community created for architecture and video games. So if you like architecture inside video games, you can join. And in 2022, I founded Cininta, which is a gaming studio focused in architecture for the Metaverse. If you are hearing bells, I'm sorry. I am near a church, so it's sounding. And well, let's get into it. So introducing the AI in the creation of digital worlds inspired by reality in architecture for the Metaverse. What is this? The question is, can we as architects, with the help of artificial intelligence, create a metaverse where architecture can improve the physical quality and experience of virtual worlds that already exist inside successful video games? In the metaverse, the environment design will play a major role. In this investigation, I'm focusing more in the environment design. Why? Because that's the principal reason for a game to be successful. And what a video game and the metaverse share? Well, they share a new world, and we're trying to create new worlds in the metaverse. So we have to focus in what video games make them successful. So I had this idea of combining a video game with architecture for the metaverse. So it's kind of creating a new metaverse that has not been existed before. And okay, so the investigation is the user journey for the exploration of a new metaverse, fitting the successful video games with great environment design and gameplay, and using them as an example of what a metaverse could be. So for this investigation, I divided in 3 parts. The first one is video games. That is the research of the environmental designs inside successful video games. So what makes people want to play them? What makes the gameplay of these video games and metaverses so attractive for others? So as an example for this is Roblox, which is considered a metaverse, but has lacks of design. But Roblox is so successful that even children of 10 years old are playing it. So why they play it? Has something interesting, right? But it has not architecture, like the architecture we create for the metaverse that all of you have shared and all over the world. Like, it's amazing architecture, but problems don't have it. So the second is about the metaverse. That is a research about some architectural projects inside the metaverse. And for example, the architecture of some of the most famous metaverse projects is mesmerizing and fantastic, as I previously said. So we architects are working inside a metaverse to do a whole other level of possibilities. But we don't have the good environment design that video games have. So can the merge of a great environment design and architecture improve the metaverse and our experience inside this new world? And the third part of the investigation is artificial intelligence. That with Midjourney is the recreation of some of the most successful video games that have great environment design with contemporary architecture. So these are the results. Oh, well, and the goal, of course, is to improve the design of architectural spaces in virtual worlds. All of this is an investigation to make better the metaverse, about what the metaverse will be. So these are the results of the research. And the first video game researcher was Minecraft, which is considered a video game and also metaverse. So the prop is that it has a great social interaction, the creativity, and a very great community. In the actual metaverses, the community are not very approachable as some video games. And well, the con of Minecraft, of course, is the pixelated style that some people like it, but in my opinion, for the perfect metaverse, it has to be more realistic. And architectural ideas. So this is the first prompt. Yes, is everything okay?
Yes, we just lost you for the moment, but now it's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I am talking in a hotel because it was the Independence Day of Mexico. So sorry. So this was the first prompt, design. This is the second. All of this was created with Midjourney using this video game as prompt, and also some of the most famous buildings inside the architectural world. And the third. So for example, here we can see what we could create with Minecraft, like a different environment, an environment with trees, with a community, a lot of buildings. I think that that's what the metaverse needs. It needs like more interaction, more spaces where we can create. And the second video game investigated was the very famous one, Grand Theft Auto. So Grand Theft Auto is an open sandbox, is category. So pro about this video game is the social interaction, community, and gameplay. And a con is no innovation in architecture and lack of architectural ideas again. So you have played Grand Theft Auto, you could see that the majority of architecture is common architecture. Just cubes and the inside, which are very amazing, but the outside and the facades of the architecture in this video game is not very innovative. So this is the first one. In this picture, we can see there is more focus in the cars, but we can see the ambient, the gaming environment is a little bit more interesting, right? With this colorful building, the neon light is more enjoyable. You will want to stay here and to play it with your friends. And the second one, a little bit more futuristic. So this is kind of a Grand Theft Auto mixed with cyberpunk. And the third one, why not, doing a Grand Theft Auto that is more futuristic. And the third one and last one is World of Warcraft, which is an MMORPG video game. So the pro of this video game is the social interaction, community, fantasy, and gameplay. And I want to say something about why fantasy is a pro. The majority of metaverses are successful because they can create something that don't exist in real life. And that's what makes World of Warcraft very successful. It's a fantasy video game where you enter and you are inside a whole new world. Like none of architecture or the ambience that it exists. And that's what makes this video game so successful. So what the metaverse needs, maybe the metaverse needs more fantasy in it, more the ambience more said to be a fantasy world. And well, the con is that it's not open, you can't create, so it's not considered a metaverse, it's just like what the developers do. And it has also a cartoon style, which is kind of updated for these days. So this was the first design. The second, and the third. All of the designs created with Midjourney and always focusing in the creation of this video game with real architecture in this world. And well, the questions are, how can we use the new technologies for a benefit inside the metaverse? For example, the use of Midjourney. Can we use Midjourney for our benefit in the metaverse? And how can we make a change? What architects can be to video games and now to the metaverse? Are architects ready to design amazing and immersive spaces that can engage everybody even more so on an urban scale? And how are we going to do it? Is AI the technology of the future that we are going to use to help us create what we want? And thank you so much for your attention. And this is my social media if you're going to stay in touch.
Elizabeth, thank you very much. Thank you very much for raising these questions. So we already have a question for the discussion, and thank you for your presentation, and hope we will address the question you raised at the end and try to get the answer for your other colleagues who are doing the also the great work. So thank you, Elizabeth. For the next speaker, we have Mario Mu. Mario Mu is an artist and director living in Berlin, Germany. After graduating from the University of Arts in Berlin, Germany, Mario has been working as on a series of the events as an author and a collaborator at the WHW Collective, Tap Theater Auditorium de Poitiers, V2M GLC Ljubljana, Lisbon, Clico London, Research Center, Proxy Politics, Sofer Studio, Gallery Ground, and so on. So Mario, the floor is yours, the screen is yours, and please tell us more about the collective forums and the Metaverse. Mario, maybe you should unmute yourself so we can...
Yeah. So, thank you, Mila. Thank you, Digital Futures, for inviting me, and hello, everyone. So, yeah, my name is Mario. I'm an artist and filmmaker. I work with images in relation to space, environment, architecture, and I often incorporate other social and spatial practices such as gaming and theater and performing arts. But my background is in painting, and at the core of my practice is image making. And what I like to do is how I see images, I observe images as constructions. So the history of painting and experimental film relates specifically to the practice of image making that is tied in with space and spatiality. Here, we can think about the effect of space on actions, interactions, entities, and theories, and how this process simultaneously transforms the space. Using the different tools from games and theater, we are able to structure the framework where an individual gets into a temporary coherence with a collective identity and contributes to the transformation of the collective form. Now, what you see on the screen is my video work, Sites of Encounter. Sites of Encounter is composed of 3 short related videos. exploring the intersection of architecture and spatial memory within games. The narrative follows a group of characters and their intimate dialogues as they navigate contemporary working conditions. The labor conditions is a big topic here, and the characters are using spatial structures to uncover and to activate an archive of memory. They're confronting the idea that memory is something that is stored in a container. And thinking about architecture and archives, they ask themselves, okay, but who owns the archive? And this might be a very important question in observing metaverse as a constructed or a built environment. What else is important here? Just to put it simply, we can observe very plainly metaverse as conflation of internet, social media, and gaming. And to start from there, also to ask ourselves, how does this relate to the ongoing ecological crisis without going into doomism and apocalyptic vision? How can we address the issues immediately? Throughout history, organic bodies have evolved into more complex forms to deal with changing climate. And my research examines the linking of sentient and insentient realms, asking what collective forms will emerge in order to adapt to the man-made environment. In a similar way, we can think about different collective forms that might come forward in order to adapt to circumstances modeled on imagery that big data structures. Will those forms have a capacity to counter the impact from such an environment? So obviously, this is in many ways a political question, just as much as it is a scientific one. And collective forms here can enable us to participate in activities where we could make certain actions that we cannot do by ourselves. The whole point is to get out of our personal or subjective perspective and to think with our environment. And how I see metaverse at this moment, grounded in the technology we have, I believe that mixed reality and augmented realities would be more important first step, and later we can incorporate the headsets and virtual realities. So because we need to feel our bodies, and we need to preserve a sense of personal freedom while participating in collective forms. The climate crisis is a problem that cannot be solved neither by the individual agency nor with the actions taken by singular national states. And this is an issue that obviously asks for a coherent global action. We cannot wait for the ongoing geopolitics to solve current conflict. Instead, we need to work on an existing heterogeneous global network and take part in joint activities towards optimal solutions for spatial thinking within metaverse. That is my idea, and thank you all, and I look forward later for questions and discussion.
Super, thank you, Mario. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving us a view from someone who is not the architect but artist. It's always great to see the other points and to understand how the people from other professions are thinking about the same thing we are talking about today, the metaverse. So for the next speakers, we have the Stepan. Stepan works together with Alina. Unfortunately, Alina couldn't join us, but Stepan is here. They are a duo from the Essay Lab, which is focused on architecture in the digital age. The practice combines developing apps, video games, virtual spaces, architecture, and landscapes. Essay Lab architects mix technology, materials, and algorithms to design flexible architecture and transforms with time, prefabricated houses, virtual pavilions, or discrete structures. The partners frequently become invited speakers at the conferences, forums, and the workshops. SA Lab has set up media that popularizes the use of the computational design, AR, VR, robots, 3D printing, and AI in architecture. So Stepan will show us their project named Solving Creative Economy Problems with the Metaverse. So Stepan, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Can you see my screen now?
We can see your screen. Thank you.
Cool, great. So my name is Stepan. I'm an architect and co-founder of SA Lab. It is a pleasure to be presenting here today. I will share some thoughts and ideas that we developed in our studio on how Metaverse can help improve education and develop different skills necessary for the world of the future. In our practice, we combine developing apps, video games, virtual spaces, architecture, and landscapes. We mix technology, materials, and algorithms to design flexible architecture, prefabricated houses, virtual pavilions, or discrete structures. And we even run a small media and a podcast that popularizes the use of computational design, AR, VR, robots, 3D printing, and artificial intelligence in architecture. And of course, we do workshops. Me and my colleague, Alina, took part in DigitalFUTURES as tutors for 2 years now. Altogether, we have an experience of 50+ workshops held during the last 8 years for students from more than 19 countries and every continent except Antarctica. We know that architecture is a creative industry and a part of a so-called creative economy sector. Creative economy is one of the fastest growing sectors in every region of the world, and it is projected to reach a global valuation of almost $1 trillion by 2023, providing 30 million jobs worldwide and employing more people 15 and 29 years old than any other sector, according to a research by the United Nations. Yet, creative economy needs professionals with a mix of creative and technical skills. So 42% of creative industry employers in UK, for example, report skills gap issue in jobs that need a mix of creative and technical skills. 51% of all media teams in the US are reporting skills shortage. And art is now enhancing STEM education at schools to bridge the gap, and the new computer science discipline called creative computing is emerging to supply demand for professionals with a mix of creative and technical skills across the globe. We think that having a profound knowledge of how space is created and being part of an industry that is both technical and creative, architects have a great possibility to unlock the potential of the metaverse. Just take a look at the skills of the students that applied to our DigitalFUTURES workshops. Designing for the metaverse suggests that you need to come up with a visual idea and also be able to write some code that will make this idea work. As virtual environments are becoming more common and ever more sophisticated, we see creating interactive virtual spaces as an essential way to practice computational design and creative coding without the constraints of the physical world. In our workshops and teaching experience, now we concentrate on technologies and pipelines that allow using the web as a place for experiments. So we mostly use Rhino and Grasshopper and Blender for creating and preparing 3D models for the web. And then we used HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with libraries like 3GS and some other libraries as well to make interactive spaces. And having more than 10 years of experience in computational design and all the workshops experience, we're trying to combine our knowledge in a set of interactive and learning tools, challenges, and tutorials in a single platform named Kodia. Our main goal here is to help young and aspiring designers get started as creative developers, building the combination of technical and creative skills necessary for developing ideas for the metaverse and creative economy. The platform now is in the active development stage, and we hope to launch it later this year. For now, you can join the wait list, and thank you everyone for your attention.
Thank you, Stepan. Thank you. So we will come back to learn more and to discuss about these necessities, maybe more technical necessities, what is needed, and maybe to share with the audience and to encourage the ones who would like to design in a metaverse. What is that they need to know? So thank you, Stepan.
Lamila, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I just muted myself. Sorry. Thank you, Stepan, for letting me know. So I don't know how much did you hear, but I just thank you for your presentation. And I just wanted to introduce the next speaker of today, Cininta Mutiara. Cininta received her master's degree from the University of Sydney in 2019 and her bachelor's in architecture from Gadjah Mada University, Jakarta in 2012. Her interest in virtual environments began in 2018 through the participating in the AA Visiting School Melbourne's new paper Virtual Matter, hosted by the University of Melbourne. She joined Atmajaya University, Jakarta in 2021 in the Virtual Intelligence and Neuroarchitecture Research Cluster, and she's currently developing a gamelan metaverse design with her multidisciplinary team. So Cininta will show us a project she developed with her team named Gamelan Metaverse as a preservation of gamelan music culture. So Cininta, please share your screen and welcome to Digital Futures Young.
Okay, thank you. So I'll try to share my screen. Hope it's
Okay.
Wait, how was it?
It is great. Thank you very
That's
much.
good? Okay.
It's good.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for confirming. Okay, good evening, everyone. So it's evening here, around 10 p.m. here in Indonesia. So I'm glad to join the forum. So I will share you guys about the project that we are currently doing in Universitas Atmajaya Jakarta in collaboration with Indonesian Institute of the Art, ISI Yogyakarta, with Komunitas Gayam 16 and also Arutawa. So we propose with our team, I'm just representing the team here. So we propose gamelan Metaverse as a preservation tool of gamelan music culture. So in short, the general scope of research is that we try to, wait, I think I need to start again. Our proposal is that using multiplayer platform to raise cultural heritage awareness, particularly about Japanese gamelan. So to put some context here, yeah, okay, maybe just a bit of it. So gamelan is an orchestra, so it's mostly consists of percussion instruments. Gamelan is an inseparable part of the Indonesian identity because its existence is closely related to various traditional rituals and ceremonies in various regions in the archipelago, because we are an archipelago country. So in Sundanese, Balinese, Madura, Lombok, and also in Java, particularly in Java. So gamelan holds integral role in Indonesian culture because it's typically performed in religious rituals, ceremonies, traditional theater festivals, and also concerts. And even more than that, it's an expression. It's a means of expression and as a way of establishing a connection between humans and the universe. So actually, there's a philosophical meaning behind it, behind every small details of this tradition. Okay, so what's the problem here that we're trying to address? Although gamelan continues to be passed down from generation to generation through informal and formal activities, however, we have some problems, mostly because gamelan is an orchestra. It's multiplayer. There's a lot of instruments, so that to move them or to have a performance in a place, it involves a lot of physical effort, and also there's a risk of damage of moving this sets of gamelan because it's heavy and bulky. And another thing is that it's also costly to have a full set of gamelan. The range is around 55 million rupiah until 500 million. The cost, also the cost of repairing it if there's something broken, or for maintenance, it's also costly. Other than that, we also facing the fading of gamelan culture in the society based on lack of knowledge about how to play gamelan. This is the main problem that we want to address. How to teach how to play gamelan in a more modern way or popular way, so that it's more interesting and also accessible. So people doesn't have to have the actual gamelan which is heavy and bulky through Metaverse. Maybe for the basic knowledge how to play it. And then, so that this is the proposed project, how the Metaverse technology can be used to promote both tangible and intangible heritage. What skills that should be prepared for future architects? How can we architects collaborate with the other discipline? So our proposal is that the world is changing, so collaboration is the key. Through this proposal, the research team wants to proceed to the next stage of development, namely developing a Metaverse application for Javanese gamelan musical instrument for media preservation of Javanese gamelan music through education. So that's why you maybe already saw it in the front, in the cover, that we consist of a lot of discipline. So we are a multidisciplinary team. We have someone from architecture, which is me, and then from informatics, information system, and also because this is one of the way to preserve gamelan. So we have to follow a certain rule, and also we have to keep the authenticity of the undermining values. So we also work with the member from art management and also the Karawitan. And we also in collaboration with experts from the industry and also the community, which is Komunitas Gayam 16 and also Arutala IT, to assist us with the technicality. So actually, the one who is young here is our participants. So there's around 40 undergrads that join us to develop this, which divided into 8 interdisciplinary group working on 8 different instruments. So why it is 8 instruments? So we have this project development stage. We start with app design and then assets creation. The architecture student works on this part, particularly for the 3D assets, instrument, avatar, environment, and also students from Karawitan. The discipline will study gamelan, work with sound effects assets. So after that, we develop the VR app and then go with the Metaverse QA and QC. So our roadmap is that maybe after this, I will show you the prototype, which consists of 3 instruments, and then later we will develop to 8 instruments, and then we will move to another type of gamelan. Right now we focus on the Japanese gamelan only, but later we will develop that. But first we start small with 3 instruments to check with the multiplayer feature. Can you hear the sound? So this is how we record the sound in order to achieve the best auditory experience possible. This is gamelan. We have a particular set that already quite fixed. So we put where we locate the microphone and so on. It's really affected the whole result. So why is it 8? Because every instrument, because this is orchestra, at least we have to have the minimum type, because some like saron and slantam, they as you can see here, they play the melodic part, and this one for the gong and also kempul, its function is to amplify the end, the boundaries of the song, and also to enhance the taste of the song or ending. So this is the minimum orchestra, minimum instruments to perform gamelan set. So this is the screenshot. So multiplayer Metaverse allows us for having this remote collaboration. This is saron. You hear saron and also gong here. And then about the environment is actually Japanese traditional structure here. And this is more close up to the saron. As you can see here, there's still a room for improvement. I mean, the delay of the sound and so on. But we try with this 3 instrument first.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I will demonstrate how to play the saron in Metaverse.
It's kind of like the POV, okay, because the objective of this is to show or to support people to play gamelan, at least to be aware of how to play the gamelan.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. And this is how the architecture student can develop the environment. So we can use the analytical skill to develop the environment based on the memories, traditional architectural elements, so that the experience inside the metaverse can be improved. Because somehow we have to deal with to conserve things, but also how to deliver something new so that it's more interesting, more convenient, and also this one for this proposal, we also trying to create this as a therapeutic environment to make use of it. I mean, to get more advantage of it. And this is another approach to elaborate more about the philosophy of the shape of gunungan. It's like mountain there. Yeah. So challenge and limitations so far is about the sound delay, depending on this infrastructure, and then the limited instrument, because we currently start with 3, and then later from the students, we will develop 8 instruments and then so on. And right now we only focus on Japanese. And next we also will develop it 2 hands experience, because to play the gamelan properly, we need actually 2 hands, because to play properly to make the correct sound. Okay, so currently we only have 1. Okay, so this is our team. So here, if you guys have a future opportunity for collab and also, or maybe for discussion, you can reach out to us from this email. And also this project is supported by the Direct Matching Fund 2002. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cynthia. It was great. Maybe we're gonna join to play. Thank you. So let's quickly move to our last but not least speakers of today to join the discussion. So today with us is Ertuğ, Erpek, and İpek Düzova. Ertuğ is a research assistant in metal architecture who graduated from the same department as the top student in the class. He's currently doing a master's degree in architectural design and theory. His interests are contemporary architecture theory, virtual space, and digital theory. İpek Düzova graduated from Bilkent University in 2021 as the highest ranked students of the Department of Architecture. She will be starting, or she already started, it's written in September, and London, the Architectural Association Design Research Laboratory, and her interests include digital fabrication, parametric design, and experimenting with the digital tools. So İpek and Ertuğ will show us the project titled Virtual Memory. The screen is yours, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Can you see my screen?
Right now, yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. And my name is İpek. And as introduced before, I completed my bachelor's last year. And next week, I will be starting at the AA's DRL program.
And hi to all, I'm Erpek from Middle East Technical University, who is currently working as a research assistant under Master's Degree Program of Architectural Design. Thanks for having us for this fruitful event.
And today we will be talking about virtual memory. This is a project that we submitted to Bildner's Virtual Home International Architecture Competition, and it received the second prize. And basically we will be talking about what we think a virtual home should be like, our version of a virtual home. So to talk briefly about the project, we initially had a lot of brainstorming about the answers of these questions, which were like in the competition brief. And we focused on what is virtual space, what should a virtual space be like, and specifically what should be a virtual home and what should it provide for its users, its residents, and so on.
So at the initial stage of our design phase, we started to question what virtual space is. Is it something new or already existing? And we came up with three main concepts to consider: history, collage, and memory. We believe that the whole concept and trajectory of history is a virtual act, and it has been shaped throughout the years within the memories of people. So in that case, we came up with the concept of virtual collage, inspired mainly from the Aldo Rossi's Analogous City and also Canaletto's Rialto Bridge. We also took some inspirations from Cinta Vidal's virtual and Escherian drawings, and our aim was to extrapolate a new virtual lexicon out of these references. So here you can see quotes about virtual space by eminent figures by John Fraser, Edward Ralph, and Paul Virilio that suggests how virtual spaces can be organized around the new phenomena and tenets. So after this, we developed a keyword map that İpek will explain in a second.
So this is a keyword map, but this will make more sense when we start to get into the details of the design and show you images. So let's continue with that. So something very important for us was the design to be very generative and changeable, because we wanted the users to be able to have the freedom to adjust it and manipulate it according to their needs and their desires. So here are a couple of alternatives that the design is actually moving according to these operations over here. The surfaces can split, and then they can rotate and slide and fold towards each other, giving this dynamic and very customizable effect that we wanted the users to have.
So for our main concept and springboard for this project, we generated a matrix that took references from architectural styles and historical periods. Actually, our aim in here was to create time points, a diversification that allows users to customize their own living styles. These all spaces can change, and architectural components can be adjusted to the user's own way of making space. Next, please. So in here, you can see the animation, how the architectural components perpetually changing and how the people are using this space, the virtual space. Next, please. So here's a section, as you can see, how the different architectural components come together to generate a virtual space under the new paradigm of being in the virtual atmosphere. As you can see, there is no physical limits, there is no envelope, there is no gravity. And all here is the things that we can do by customizing the environment that we have. In here, you can see how the variations of different architectural elements actually creating a certain sense of memory in this space itself. Next, please.
And here in the perspectives, we also try to allocate some functions such as working or meeting and interacting with other people, also creating perhaps maybe an artwork. And we got into thinking virtual tools in our day have been able to minimize the distance in terms of kilometers, but what if we could minimize the distance in time and allow people to interact with time as well and with the past? And another thing that we played around with was the chance to live in paintings, if I may, because paintings are also another form of virtual space, and the opportunity to make our design set in anything, actually, the freedom to do that, freed from all the limitations of a physical world, was very exciting for us. So we kind of experimented with that idea as well. Also tried to use natural elements and make people interact with the artworks as well. So to sum up briefly, basically, we wanted to use very familiar elements that we see every day and we're very used to, such as arcs and domes and everything, also architectural and non-architectural. We try to look at these elements in a different light and create something very unfamiliar in a sense. And this surreal and a strange space would be very interesting for people, and the users would like to explore and discover it more. And that is all from us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, İpek and Ertuğ. Thank you for your contribution of today's talk. And after all presentation and all speakers, I can only thank you. So I had a great time to listening all your presentation and seeing all of your projects. And I'm very happy to see how different projects we show today. And to thank you, I would say that I really feel educated after all these presentations. So it was really privileged to listen the presentation and to join today's session. So we're gonna start with the discussion. So please feel free to, I know that some of you already raised some questions during your presentation, so please feel free to raise these questions and maybe to ask each other about something that you found interesting during presentation. I also have some questions, and maybe just to start and maybe to share with the audience. I know that majority of you do have, or all of you do have the background in the digital architecture, but what was the trigger that makes you start designing for the metaverse? How did you decide that it was like a natural for you process because you are involved in this digital realm, or it was something you've been triggered by something else? So how you jump into the metaverse?
It's a very interesting question, if I may. I think, the available tools that we have, especially as architects and designers, the software that we've been using for a long period of time, and we already know, now they open us new ways to design for digital architecture. And of course, with all the creativity that we share, I'm sure everyone will agree with me, we see a huge potential to be able to finally design stuff, because also when, in your professional practice, even when you design architecture, it doesn't mean that something that you work on will be built at any point in time. Whereas now for the metaverse, we are free to design anything we want. And it's not also for the architects as such, it's for everyone who is able to learn and use those tools. And in the future, we know that many companies are working on software that will be very easy to use just from your browser. And almost everyone will be able to build for the metaverse, you know, their own house, their own space, another Earth, anything. So we are just at the very, very beginning. And for us, I think to realize that we have the tools, we can use them, is like the best invitation that we can get to start designing for the metaverse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add, at least in my case, it was before I was very interested in architectural technologies, and I was doing like 3D printing tests and something like very physical. But it was for me during the pandemic that I was like isolated, and I needed to start like doing work virtually, like working remotely. And I realized that I can work for these metaverse projects. That's why I was thinking, and I was saying that in that time it was called immersive environments, and everything was connected because of that, because we were isolated. At least that was like for me how I entered designing for the metaverse. And after Facebook changed its name to Meta, the metaverse word started popping up everywhere, because it was a word from before, but not everyone know the word. And that's how I entered. I think that a lot of people, not only me, entered during that specific time, not only because of the technology, because we already have the tools. I already knew the tools from before, but in that specific time, I needed to not being isolated from like the world. I needed to connect with other people, because at least here in Peru, we had a very long isolation time. We couldn't go outside. So in that time, it was like for socializing, from like start socializing, entering into different metaverses that were available in that time, like a VR chat and all the metaverses. Then entering how to design for these metaverses, because I was with the headsets. Just I remember one time I was with the headsets in a beach, a virtual beach, because it was calm for me during a very stressful time. So yeah, that's how I entered to the metaverse design.
Thank you. Elizabeth, you raise your hand as well. Just please unmute yourself, because we cannot hear you.
Can you listen to me?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, yes. For me, it was very natural, because I always have loved video games, as you can see. So I use video games as an inspiration to my architectural projects inside the school. And back then, when I started university, it was 2013. It wasn't popular. It was really like, oh, you like video games, you're weird, right? But then after I graduated and everything of the metaverse started, I literally just had no other option. I wanted to join, because obviously this was what I always wanted. So it was very, very natural to me join the metaverse. And inside the school, I also learned different 3D programs like Rhino and obviously Maya, etc. So when the metaverse started, it was easy to just look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Stepan, you raise your hand.
Yeah. I'd like to comment on my way into metaverse as well. Well, I have teaching background, and I guess there were many reasons that combined that took me into metaverse and developing for the metaverse. The first one is COVID, of course, and this pandemic pandemic story, where we could not teach the way we used to teach before, and we started experimenting and creating different kind of tools and maybe virtual spaces as well to get our students and to show them some material and content and stuff like that. And we also have workshops for kids as well. And when you communicate with kids, they are constantly playing video games. And sometimes you start thinking, what if they could play video games and learn something new as well? And that way we started thinking about creating maybe some educational games and some virtual spaces that could teach them something, tell them some story about some different, I don't know, different facts, for example. And as an architect myself, I was always fascinated with computational design and with this idea that you can not think about the final form, but you can think about the logic of the form, and you can write some code and execute it and generate something. And it's an experimental approach. Usually when you're working with physical projects, 90% is that they are not going to be built because for a lot of reasons. But in the case of the metaverse, every project you're working on, you can create it and it will be published, it will be available online for everybody to experience it.
Okay, thank you, Stepan. Haotian would like to ask or to...
Yeah, I'd like to share my answer to this question. Thanks. I've been having a hard time finding the button of raise hand, so I just did a physical one.
So neither do I know where that button is.
All right. Yeah. I think I may offer another trajectory because as I hinted in the presentation, this is actually our first time trying to situate our research in the context of Metaverse. Well, first, the triggers that I saw the open call, and I thought it'd be fun to share this. Also because we found we embrace this opportunity to use new territories which are actually very relevant to examine the works that we have been doing right now and to see if there's something new that come out of that. On the other hand, to be very honest, over the past 1 or 2 years, I have been skeptical of this concept of Metaverse, especially at the very beginning. And I believe I'm not alone. And actually, I'm joined by a lot of people, and a lot of them are also watching the conversation today, I assume. Then I think it is a good moment to enter this conversation, having seen what's going on around this topic of Metaverse over the past years, so that it allows us to hold a more critical position towards this concept and to push this forward. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Haotian. In your presentation, you tackled the aesthetics. So maybe just to continue discussion, what is about the beauty or the aesthetics in the metaverse? What do you think that, what should we make or not make association with the reality? In the work of the Elizabeth, we find out that obviously these aesthetics from the video game somehow leaking into the metaverse space. And since you've been talking about the aesthetics, what do you think how architecture will survive? I think it's most artistic voyage. So, and maybe the Mario move from the point of the artist can also jump into this discussion about the beauty and the aesthetics. So please, and everyone else, of course.
Sure. Well, since the word came from my presentation, maybe I share a quick answer just to kick off. I think that's indeed one of the most pressing issues because right now the design of Metaverse is totally boundless. And I argue that, well, aesthetic is not about the pleasure of someone that experiences the metaverse. Is actually a concept that's tied to the history of art, of architecture, of space. So I would argue that the aesthetic of metaverse should not break from the aesthetics of the city, of the building, of art, and in fact, it should have a lot of connections from that. And then, as to the future, actually, we might not even be able to envision right now. But I could say that at some point we still need to look back at the history. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So I can jump in if you can hear me.
We can.
Yeah. Well, talking about aesthetics, there are certain tropes that we are constantly surrounded with in gaming environment. There are certain aesthetics and visual forms that are constantly repeating themselves, and I guess also people are kind of fed up with it, even though Minecraft has such a simple logic. It is often much more creative because people are able to bring in completely different worlds and build them and surround themselves with. On the other hand, we have, let's say, a boring influences of cyberpunk, steampunk that have been around for 20 years, and we need more architects, absolutely, in this environment. What I have seen in my research on relationship of architecture and gaming is we have to remind ourselves that architecture in Metaverse will have a completely different role. It's not about inhabiting and habituation. It's about unfolding experiences. It's about architecture has a role of navigating you through a certain experience. So it's leading you, it's showing you the way, and it's there to coordinate meetings and meeting points, checkpoints. Architecture helps you to learn something about your history, about certain memories that are inscribed in, if there is some kind of a narrative. But if it's just a surrounding for people to meet in some kind of live action experience, then architecture still is not there to give you a place for sleep or to spend that type of a physical space. So coming from filmmaking, I like to experience atmosphere when architecture in Metaverse provides a certain atmosphere, a mood, a setting for whatever we are doing that can kind of help us embody that experience. And finally, I can mention some filmmakers who have been working with architecture really well, just to point the idea. For example, Stanley Kubrick, Michelangelo Antonioni, or Sergei Eisenstein, and an architect, Zumthor, who has written about this in his book, Atmospheres, have provided this idea of setting and moods in the context of gaming as a built environment. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you, Mario. Anyone else would like to add something on
Lamila,
our mood?
Yeah. I just wanted to
Please,
thank you.
Gustavo.
But Livia, I think what I wanted to do is build on the aesthetic question, because in architecture, a lot of schools have a limited definition. And I think in my trajectory, in my education and professional life, it's what you make it. So I would love to build on the question after Livia speaks on what is our role and responsibilities in architecture. Are we supposed to try to revolutionize, change the system? Or are we here to accept how things are? And I think I would love to hear from each of you shortly, because if you guys are our future leaders, we have a lot of problems to solve. And I hope you guys have some solutions for us. But anyway, Livia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So to the other question before, I really agree that I also think that architecture now, like with this new possibility of not tangible things, it opens such a big sphere of creating atmospheres and creating way more than it was before the Metaverse. And also for me and for us, what we thought is that, like the Metaverse, we would like to create, to create something that's like even bigger than anything we can imagine. And in our opinions, it's the biggest thing is if it's not even one step in translation, and then if that's shared, if you stay in your mind, if you create something with creativity, and then get in touch with other people, and then spread this new huge thing that's not like beyond words. That's what I'd like to say. And yeah, and to the question about beauty, if I got it right, about how the future of architecture should how can you maybe repeat the question, because I still had mine in my head.
It was about the importance of the beauty and the beauty in the metaverse. Then Mario tackled the mood of the space, importance of the mood of the space, about the aesthetics, connection with the history and with what we have in the built environment. So it was about that and about the revolutionary thinking of you guys who are the pioneers in this field.
Okay, then I would just continue my opinion towards it. I definitely think that we should be revolutionary, because it's our time now and our future, and I think a lot has to change, and it's time for it now, because otherwise it will just spread apart. And I think it's time to, like, with all the things going on at the moment, we have to change something. And about beauty, I think honestly, like, the purest beauty is to create your own atmosphere, as I just said before. And that's why I'd like to create atmospheres and emotions, and to have this endless metaverse within yourself, and to be yet connectable with other people. That's my definition of this beauty in this new field.
Thank you, Livia. Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. I think that the question with beauty is like, beauty is in the eyes of one who is looking at it. So maybe what I think is beauty is like my unique point of view, but for other person is totally different. So I think that in the metaverse, as in real life, we will have different styles, because we have very unique viewpoints of everyone. So until now, we have that. We have like people who love Minecraft, and we have people who hate Minecraft. We have people who want to be very complex with no gravity, with no circulation systems. And we have people that want these circulation systems because for them, they are more attached to reality. So I think it's a mixture. In the metaverse, everyone is going to be like their own creator. Like, we have different creators, and everyone in the metaverse is a creator. So even if you're not an architect, you can be a creator now in the metaverse. So I think that that's a key point for all of us. As architects, we have like before our ego that we were the ones that designed and built everything because we were the architects. But right now we need to start thinking, okay, we're not the only ones that can do that. Because even like my nephew that is very, very young, he's like 3 years old, like very, very young. And he do the things in the metaverse, in his type of metaverse. He know how to do it. So I know that the revolution is coming for us as a profession, and we need to pass the torch. Maybe not only us are the ones that has the unique things that we can do. We can do things, and that's how we do it like in the past years, but now everyone can. So I think that that's a point to discuss maybe.
Jennifer, I just wanted to ask you, because in your presentation you also mentioned that you've been working on the different platforms in the metaverse. How much the constraints of the platforms change the initial idea?
It changed a lot depending on what platform are you working for, because it has like a limitation of size. Before, when you were, because I do physical architecture too, when you are building a project and you have a client, the limitation in the majority of the times is the budget. Like, it's a real limitation. But in the metaverse, the real limitation is the size of the files, because you can do whatever you want, but with a limitation that it needs to be uploaded maybe in 15 megabytes. And it's very, very little 15 megabytes, comparing to other metaverse that can do 180 megabytes, and you can do more. So you need to start, like, at least for me, I start with one metaverse, then I change to another platform, so I can change and see what I can do with the constraints that they already have. Because I can do things like from zero, from scratch, from Unity on Unreal, but I wanted to see like big metaverses, what they are doing now, because they have already a platform, they have already a community, because there is another point to that. When we create something in the metaverse and there is no one to enter, for what we're creating this for who? Because then the people need to experience the space. And if the, let's call it like the event finishes, then what happens with that space? It's like, what happens? It's like an empty building, like totally abandoned building. So it's like a lot of questions that I have not right now, like working with this. And yeah, I think that's.
Thank you. Can I ask Cininta? I don't know who was the first. Sorry if I just missed Stepan.
It's Stepan.
Stepan, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stepan. Then floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I can go second if you want to.
No, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. What I'd like to say is that Metaverse is probably a way of organizing information, just like architecture is a way to organize space and navigate people. The Metaverse is a way to organize information and navigate people towards this information. And from that point of view, I think that we can experiment and revolutionize the ways we access information, the way we cannot afford ourselves in the physical world because we're bound by constraints. In the metaverse, we are free to experiment and, of course, explore different ways of navigating in space. And about the beauty, what I think the beauty and the aesthetics are connected with the message of the space. What kind of message you're translating with the space and the architecture of the space and so on. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stepan. Cininta?
Okay, thank you. So I think Metaverse is very democratized, so everyone can do, just like the previous arguments that we, like everyone, it's very subjective. I mean, the aesthetic is very subjective. Everyone is a designer, but I will approach the potential of Metaverse for because of its not from the obsolescence. So we can use Metaverse for a way to for learning and also to preserve the actual, I mean, the real world heritage, and to document that and raising people awareness about that. So maybe, in my opinion, I will approach the potential of Metaverse to make something obsolete and very material into as a medium to preserve that. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Cininta. Souktik?
Yeah. So the whole idea of Metaverse, the core concept that we are trying to reach, if we see from the like the ancient civilization, like from where architects came and what we are going to be, we can see that the works of architects are more like driven by the needs. Beforehand, we used to need the physical spaces, we need a space to live, to where we came to some minimalistic ideas where less is more the concepts came, and then gradually we came to like exploration of spaces where the space architecture came, and now we have the digital spaces. Now digital spaces, I believe, have like a huge opportunities for all of us, to like from having NFTs to having cryptos and all of those things, and also from experience point of view, because now we are like, there is a restrictions on the we had pandemics, and we know that how much the workspaces have transformed and how much the other, like the museums have came to our like the laptops, and we can just experience from our home. And that whole need that comes, that how we are utilizing digital is something like the digital architecture, and how we are perceiving things to us is something the metaverse is going to solve in the next upcoming years. And like, since like the stage that we are in is right now, if you see that how mobile phones are developed 50 years before, it just came to market, and we didn't know that what are the broader scopes, but now we can see that everything is in there in the mobile phone. So that's the stage we are in for metaverse as well. So let's see what is it is upcoming to.
Thank you for your comments. Ertuğ and İpek, would you like to share some of your thoughts? Since you've been showing the projects that has its relation to the physical environment, and what are, if any, virtual conditions that you encountered in your work as a meta architect you find it important? Are there any conditions that someone who will start to work in a metaverse face with, and you would like to share in advance?
I think I can say that the metamorphosis of time is important in metaverse, because in the back in times we were discussing there was a timeline, there was a chronology that we need to obey. There are some periods, there are some architectural designs, but now we are talking about some things that happens instantly, and everything is actually organized around the time points. So every user joined to the mutual system, and every user participating with their own ideas, being individual and contributing to the system with their own way of conveying information. So in that case, their whole mindset is actually transferred from physical space to virtual space in a time, like it is as if it is at kind of a point. So there is no timeline, there is no continuity, but there is certain change in the metaverse. So in here, it's important to understand how this will affect the architecture. So everything will become so quick. So architecture does no longer need any construction phases, like lots of weeks or management system, because everything will happen instantly. So the important thing is we need to avoid being generic in metaverse. I believe that we need to avoid turn it into something that is commercial and based on the assets, but rather something that we need to still enjoy the beauties, aesthetics, and anthropometric qualities of the architectural space as well, I believe. So in our project, actually, we try to develop on the memory itself. So the brain and the individual's mindset is the most important thing that we will transfer from physical world to a virtual world, I believe, and we believe, actually.
Thank you. İpek, would you like to add something?
I can also add something too.
On that B.
Yeah, and in our specific case, actually, since we were designing a home, even though it was virtual, something important for us was, we had a lot of brainstorming, trying to come up with what is home actually. And home is actually somewhere that you feel safe, somewhere you feel familiar, and somewhere that you know. So the reason why we didn't want to create a whole virtual world very alien to most people is because we also wanted to keep those references, those familiarity, because that was actually what reminded us of home. And we tried to look at it in a different way and a more virtual way, in a sense, in which everything is possible. I think something about the metaverse is that it can basically be anything that you want it to be, anything that the users want it to be. They can participate and design their own metaverse. And we wanted to give those tools and those references, and also freed from all the limitations of the physical world, we wanted the users to kind of experiment with the space in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Francisco, your presentation was so, provocative, in the sense that all the images that you show us provoke some kind of the thinking. What do you think, how much philosophical comprehensions might be important to understand what happens in the metaverse?
So I tried to look at it not from a practical point of view, like how to do and what's what exactly is the potential of it, because that's a question that many other people can explore in a much better way with other technical knowledge. And instead, I try to focus on what's the effect on people, and also what could be the focus of architects. Because yeah, I agree with most people that were saying that on the metaverse, each and everyone can become the creator of their own world. But at the same time, it's like the decoration of an house or an apartment. Anyone can do it, but you need a base to work properly. So someone needs to set everything up so that everyone afterward can come in and do whatever they want. And so my focus on the presentation was what are the basic structure for something to be practical and to work efficiently. Because if we consider that someone can just live in their dream worlds and they just live alone, what happens after? They cannot they cannot remain interested on living their own experience over and over again. So you need to create some kind of infrastructure, some kind of setting a canvas that works so that people can really profit and the system itself can evolve. So yeah, that was my approach, still very conceptual, still very abstract. And yeah, because these are questions I don't have specific answers, maybe just some possibilities. Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to jump? If you don't know how to raise the hand, as I don't, maybe you can just raise it like that. So anyone would like to discuss about that kind of the social value of the designed spaces, and what do you think we as an architect and artists should pay attention, how we can promote the importance of the interaction, gathering, socializing in the metaverse, and how much do you think that it's important? Does it has to relate to the economic value as well?
Well, maybe I can start, since in my presentation I talk about social interaction and community. I'm not pretty sure if I should talk about economy, because I'm not very good at that subject. But well, I think that the metaverse and social interaction should be something that must be very, very united. It is very important for the metaverse to be a community and to have a very strong social interaction, because the avatar, that is our principal, how can I say, our principal us merging into the metaverse is between the avatar, right? And the avatar represents us. How do we see ourselves inside the metaverse is the avatar. So when we interact with other people, we are interacting with other avatars and how they see themselves also. For example, this metaverse called Zanzar, which was very good in 2020, but nowadays, in my personal opinion, there are better metaverses. You could create your avatar in the way you want it, like a robot or an elf. You could do literally whatever you want. And with this, you could interact with other people inside this huge metaverse that has like a lot of portals, and you could transport yourself to another place and meet people. Actually, I went to the Futurely party. I don't know if you guys are part of Futurely also, but they hosted like parties inside Salazar, and you could meet other architects. So I think that for the metaverse, it's very important that the social interaction is one of the principal points of it, because it's the way we interact with other people and the way we also like see the metaverse. What's the point of a very beautiful metaverse with a lot of beautiful architecture and mesmerizing ambience if we are not with other people to live in?
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Anyone else would like?
I can
Please.
talk a little, or maybe Julia first.
Sorry, I'm confused about the hand. I don't know where it is. But yes, just wanted to add to Elizabeth's approach on this, because yeah, that's true that the metaverse and the idea behind it is to create something for humans, because we know that we are moving towards all social media platforms for communication, and even the generations to come, they use even more and more medium on a daily basis, kind of. So we know that we are at the verge of a big shift of how the social interaction will happen in the future, both for education, for work, for parties. But now the thing will be like, there will be so many different options and so many different metaverses offering different kind of interaction. There will be places like for art, NFT galleries, stadiums, party places, TV, anything that we can think of, and probably even more and more places. And now the Cilium transition comes in place because we have to be able to connect them somehow, right? We can imagine that at some point, this network will be so huge that we can get lost easily, or, there might be places that are not reachable for you for a reason because of your internet connection or something else. So we also need to think about how to connect those different metaverses and different environments, because what's the point of having them so many if every time you have to create a new account, log in, create a new avatar? It wouldn't make sense for us at some point. It would be overwhelming. So we have to think about how also the social interaction should happen in those in-between spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Just recall the Zoltang presentation, like flowing in one screen, from one screen to another screen. So maybe we already have some answers. So Livia, you wanted to say something as well? Or I just
really agree. I think I also see the problem there in the in-between, because as Ula just mentioned, like we create our avatar ourselves, but at some point we're still like connected to ourselves and we can't change ourselves anytime. Like I think if this really gets a big, huge thing, we have to, it is not our game. It should be more than like just to log in, do this, and then get out. I think you should be more connected to it and maybe connect all these metaverses together to create a big community.
Jennifer, thank you, Livia. Wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add that we are in a point like it's like a very early stage of the metaverse, because we don't have we have Google in the Web2 that you can search whatever you want. I think we don't have right now like a Google for metaverse, that you cannot enter to something that can have all the platforms, because every day we have new platforms, and there is like Ule saying, can be overwhelming in the future, because right now it's like a lot. And yeah, I think that for us, like humans, we want to have, okay, we're having an avatar, and that avatar is representing us in the metaverse, and that can be probably tricky if you are what metaverse you're using. You have one avatar here, one avatar there. I think that probably the most close point to have like one avatar is Ready Player Me. Like they have avatars for different metaverses. They work in spatial, they work in the monoverse. It's the same avatar, and you just create one account and works for different ones. But I think that that's like one initiative. It's not like for all the metaverses. And yeah, I think that that's a point to consider. We can be whoever we want to be in the metaverse, but also it can be overwhelming. So I think that that's something very interesting to consider.
Thank you. Maria, you wanted to add something?
So just a short notice and a quick thought. Architecture so far, physical architecture is made according to human proportion. So we're doing architecture in relation to human body and our physical presence. And we have to have in mind that architecture within Metaverse is done in proportion to gaze, to our sight, the way we look, the way we observe, just the way our eyes and brain work. So it's a different spatiality that I'm interested in, how different disciplines will deal with. And this is not the world around us will have to be made according to the way we look and not the way we have our bodies. Yeah, that's it.
Great. So I wanted to ask also another question, but obviously it's obsolete asking because you already, it was about the obstacles that you face with, but in your work you showed that even these obstacles are pushing you forward to looking for the solution. So it's the obsolete to maybe ask about that, but I will ask you to maybe give us your final thoughts about the metaverse and about what happens in the metaverse. So please, we are close to finished, so this is a chance that each of you give us something we can think about for our next session. Please, Haotian.
May I go first on this question? Speaking of obstacles, we have plenty of obstacles these days. And I want to start from the most basic one, which is the technical obstacle. Like I said, we've found it quite difficult to translate some of the ideas we've been experimenting into something that people can experience in real time. So I think there's still a huge gap between our imagination versus the technological infrastructure that allow for everything to happen. That somehow relates to Gustavo's previous question of architect's role. And I mean, without having a clear answer, I do feel that architects are somehow powerless in this situation. And it's as if we're waiting for the technicians to figure out a possible platform for us to work on, and then we can do our jobs. On the other hand, I think we could enter this conversation through expanding people's imaginations. Therefore, even if we're not the people who are really building the invisible infrastructure, we could influence that through, joining the discussions in the cultural realm. Yeah, thanks.
Super, thank you. Who would like to give the final thoughts? Mario, your hand is raised. Is because you forgot, or just you wanted to tell us your final
I always have something to say or have something on my mind. It was by accident, but I would just go back to what I said in the beginning, is that at this moment, talking about the technological framework we work with, I see more potential and I'm more interested to get involved with augmented reality and mixed reality setups regarding metaverse concepts, because the virtual reality headset have this, I think the restrictions they do upon bodies will negatively influence our imagination. And we can work with headsets once we learn how to properly understand movement within metaverse. And that's why I'm more excited to see interesting new augmented reality projects regarding metaverse.
Thank you, Mario. Ertuğ?
And I actually want to share the quote of ours at the start of our presentation yet again, because I found it very important. So we think that a physical home nurtures our bodies. A virtual home should nurture our minds by responding to our virtual needs, which are socializing, creating, and resting. So I find this pretty much important for our discussion as well. So we need to think of our creativity, our socializing qualities, rather than the needs of our bodies as if it's in the real world and based on the user needs of architectural design. So that's the last thing I want to add to this session.
Thank you. İpek, would you like to add something?
Yes, in a similar way, I also think that even though we may not be in the metaverse as our physical selves, we are still there and we still have our minds and we can still perceive around and we still have the need to socialize or to create or to rest, as Ertuğ had mentioned. So even though we're not there in a physical sense, or even though the atmosphere that we're in doesn't have to basically satisfy our physical needs, we are still there as human beings having virtual needs as well.
Thank you. Thank you, İpek. Livia?
Yes, thank you. I think it could even be more than that. I think we can overcome these physical borders and therefore think more, we can experience more than we could, and our thoughts and imagination can grow so much more in the metaverse. And I think we can take something from there and take it with us in the physical world again, to get the chance to exit it for once, to have every option to just be the creator and to just switch position or change whatever you want. You can make up all the rules you want. And I think that's just a perfect opportunity.
Thank you. Stepan?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to remember Frank Gehry's words from an interview I just watched recently. And he said that if you know the outcomes of what you're going to do in the beginning, it is guaranteed that you're not going to do it at all, because you know the final result already. And I think that here with this metaverse thing, we don't know the final outcome, and we are all here to create something new. And this is the most interesting thing for us as architects and creators right now. And I'm really looking forward at these educational community spaces that we're all going to create. And I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Me too. Urszula?
Yes, I agree with you, Stepan. And I'm also going to tell something that might be shocking for people, but I guess that everyone will agree that also us, we are waiting for some kind of revolution about metaverse, because we need a platform. For now, all projects that we make, they are just the beginning, very, very beginning, and we still don't know where we're going to get with those projects and what will be the outcome. So that's interesting for sure. But we all need a good platform to be able to, I don't know, buy land, build on this land, create our own things, create our avatars, host our own parties. So we are still waiting for a big player, most probably, to come up on the stage, giving us the right tools. Because, you know, even though we create something, we model something and then put it on Unreal, the reach is so limited. You know, only people who know how to get there will get there. It's not for everyone yet, although, of course, everyone can learn, but it's not yet so accessible. So I would say that, yes, we are waiting for a revolution still. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jennifer?
Yeah, I think that I agree with all the comments. And I think that the metaverse, as I was saying, it's in early stages. I test different platforms if you want to do something that it's pretty huge and pretty crazy, because we as architects have very creative ideas. I think in some metaverse it's impossible right now due to limitations of file size. So we are like constrained in that sense. But I think that in the metaverse that exists now, we can do some things, and a process that I didn't talk in the presentation, but it's something that I do every time. It's like remeshing process for all my geometries, because all my geometries weigh a lot, and then I have to remesh, and after that upload. And well, it's a process that I iterate every time. And depending on the metaverse, we need to try to be flexible of what we can do right now, because it's in early stages. I know that in the future, probably we're going to have a bigger platform that can have more things and we can do crazy stuff. But right now that we have these constraints, and at least now I know that for me, it's like exploration, like a lot of explorative ideas and how we can do this. And as Urszula was saying, in Unreal, it's like a very few people can enter. And there are some other platforms, like I was telling with the spatial with my students, that is more open, but the constraints are like bigger constraints. So we need to analyze what we want to do and what we want to test. And I'm very looking forward for the future, because we don't know what is coming next. And even with AI, with the AI revolution that we're having right now, I know that in the future we can have something very similar, but for the metaverse, not exactly the same. But right now everyone can use AI, and before it was like a very crazy topic, a very crazy idea, not everyone understand the topic. Right now everyone can, and I am hoping that in the future everyone can like really understand what is the metaverse and how they can enter the metaverse, create their avatars, and just be there, not all the time, but just be there and experience the spaces and do what they want to do in the metaverse. Because right now it has like very limited things that you can do, and it depends if you have the headsets or not. But in the future, probably not. Maybe we can enter with the phones. That is something that we have. And
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Souktik, would you like to share your final thoughts?
Yeah. So since it is very, we don't know that what is the final outcome of the metaverse is after 40 years, what we see, but it is very understandable that we have our workspace, our private space, and soon we will have our meta space, and soon we might come up with some meta rooms and something that is more commerciable things. And I believe it will also penetrate in all the sectors of our life, from like every sectors what we have, and maybe some meta movie will release soon. I recently saw Pixar released some augmented reality movie. It was very interesting, but soon meta movies can come up. And I also think that the spaces where I can host a party or I can host a exhibition for my works, that is also a very reachable thing, and also like give more access to what I can do, like the physical sense, what I can't do, I can do in the metaverse. And since metaverse can be like explored by all the people from the world, I can literally invite all the 7.5 billion people to my metaverse world to interact with them. So that's a whole world coming together in a singular platform, no borders, nothing. And that would be a whole revolution that is coming up.
Thank you. Thank you. Cininta, your final thoughts.
Okay, so it's really interesting.
Would you like
to
share your final thoughts? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing your work with us.
Thank you. So I really enjoyed the conversation. There's a lot of ideas going on, and I particularly agree that about the inclusivity of the I mean the medium to access the metaverse, because there's a lot of new ideas, and we see that there's a lot of different approach. But I think if there's any other media to access this, it will be more accessible, and more there's more audience to this great ideas. So that it will be really interesting. Because speaking about the challenge in Indonesia, mainly metaverse is accessed through the headset. So some people are not used to it. So they have motion sickness, and sometimes they could not afford it. I mean, not everyone can have the access to that. So actually, there's a lot of potential in the metaverse, but about how we access that. Sometimes in some countries, speaking about the infrastructure, they're still limited. So hopefully there's a new breakthrough to that. Maybe not only through the head-mounted headset, or maybe through another means. Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see what will be going on in the future. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Thank you. Francisco, anything you would like to share, Ed, as your final thoughts?
I'm always a bit of an outsider. I work mostly with physical projects, so my approach is a bit more abstract. But I think one of the biggest challenges to come is the democratization of the metaverse. As many people were saying, who gets access, what type of access will people get, and also everyone needs to consider that these platforms are controlled by companies that have economical interests, so they're going to shape these virtual realities in a certain way. And I think that people need to be conscious of that situation, and whatever happens next needs to be very, very well thought, and needs to be needs to consider the possibilities of everyone in the world, and not just of a few that have the opportunity to create these realities.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining. I think we open many questions, so we can continue hours and hours. Gustavo, your final thoughts?
My final thoughts. Well, can you put on the slides for the Lamilla? Can you put on the slides for our event today? I just wanted to formally thank everyone that joined. I was deeply inspired today. I think Neil's words are very clear to me, is that this is our world and this is our platform, and we make it what it is. I am a very hopeful person, and I'm very positive. That's also annoying for most people, but our life is very short. So we might as well party and have fun and do coffee and work hard. So that's kind of my attitude. I would also ask if you want to join us in a future discussion, or if you have ideas. We also cultivate future leaders. We have a conference that's dedicated for next year. And we also have different language channels. So I think now we have 13 different languages. So if there's a language that we don't cover, please feel free to let us know, and we're here for you. I think I want to thank Lamilla for organizing this. She has done a fabulous job. We will have future calls. And I think that right now, I appeal to your leadership and your energy. And let's continue the conversation for sure. We're on Discord if you haven't signed up, and we're here for you. So Lamilla, what have you learned today? Is there something that you want to give encouragement for everyone else?
A lot.
For sure.
I feel from the very beginning of the discussion, I said that I really feel educated. So thank you all for coming, and nothing will happen without you. So I'm really much appreciate your effort and your willingness to join and to discuss and to share your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Till the next time.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity.
Bye bye.